Hello Reefers, I just want to take a moment to show off my little setup here. It's my Red Sea Reefer 350. There's lots of setups on YouTube right now, so the tank itself isn't really what I wanted to show off, more like about what I did. But first I wanted to point out, so I have the stupid decorative arch across my room, and then right here is a decorative half wall. It's built into the wall. This side had one right where I wanted to put the fish tank, so I would have had to get a Reefer 150 to fit on this side of the half wall, and I was already annoyed at the size of that and the sump and everything, so I had to rip out that half wall to make room. This other half wall behind me is next. I just haven't gotten there yet. So what that did, ripping out the half wall, is it gave me access to the floor plate of the wall. So I actually used a blank junction box like one of these guys down there, and a 4-gang box, and cut it open on the back side, and I ran pipes down through the wall, through the floorboard and into the basement, and then I patched it all up so the wall, so when we move, I'll just put a blank plate over the junction box. So the utility side of my setup, obviously you got the sump, nothing too spectacular about that, lots of sumps on YouTube. But what I have is an auto top-up system. There's lots of systems on the internet. None of them quite did what I wanted, so I actually designed my own. So I have a float right here that when the water level gets down there, it kicks on the pump, pumps it up to this upper float right here where it shuts it off, and it's just below the float. So it actually just kicked on not too long ago. And then I've got dual high level switches here. You might be able to hear that sound in the background. That's the Audible alarm in the basement. I'm going to move the Audible alarm up here onto this side eventually, but I haven't gotten there yet. I'm still modifying things as I need. So dual redundant high level switches, because I'll show you my setup in the basement, but I could theoretically keep pumping water into my living room forever. So I just wanted a lot of redundancy to make sure that didn't happen. I also have a third high level float switch in my sump in case the level float failed and then the top-up tank just kept dumping into my sump. I wanted it to shut everything down too. So all these high level switches actually do a complete shutdown of my auto top-up system. And yeah, the pump kicks on about every day and a half. It's RODI water. It's hassle-free. I don't have to fill anything up. And let's go take a look at the basement. Okay, so this is my utility room in the basement. I got the washer and dryer here, water heater. The heater for the house is to the left over there. But what I have is my little control center down here. That's my salt water. That is for my top-up tank. We'll just start at the beginning here. So we have the water line for the house. So I teed off right here. I got a little check valve, and I have a solenoid valve right here. So if we get a high level switch activated, then that thing shuts off, and then it cannot purify any more water, cannot fill up this tank anymore, which goes to my top-up tank. I tried to design everything with maintenance and failures in mind, trying to count on every component failing at some point. So I have a bypass valve for in case this thing fails, and I have swivel connects on both sides so I could just swing that right out. I've actually just got plugs right here so I could just unplug the wires. So with 2 wrenches I could swap that thing out. So that goes through some tubing down into my RODI filters, and from there it goes to my top-up tank. That's just pure water. Got my 2 valves here. I'm closed with my saltwater tank down here. I've got the auto top-up float set up on both of these, and both of these also have a high-level float switch. Right underneath, I'm still cleaning some stuff up. This pump did not fit where I wanted it to, so that's kind of there for now. But everything's GFCI protected. I don't really like a 120-volt pump underneath my water, but I'll get this cleaned up eventually. So if this pump fails, I've got this method to fill up a bucket of water or whatever to top up my tank. This is a 120 volt pump. This is positive pressure displacement. It's a diaphragm pump, which you tend to get more lift out of positive pressure displacement pumps than you do out of centrifugal pumps. Because I'm in my basement, we got to go upstairs to the water. It's about probably 10 or 12 feet of lift. My little pride and joy is my little control center over here. So this is my power head for my saltwater mixer, which is down here. The saltwater. This is the heater, so I could turn them on and off if I want. It's a different color, tan, because this is in the on position, but as you notice, the pump is not on right now. So I have a couple of relays here, and I've got my signal wires and stuff coming in here. I've got a 12 volt adapter right there. It takes 120 volts in, puts 12 volts out. So I'm actually using 12 volt signal wires for my high level switches, and that's what these are for. These are the inputs and outputs for the different things like the solenoid and such. So everything is fail closed. This solenoid fails closed. If it does not have power, it closes. So it takes power to open. This is my ESD relay. That also takes power to activate everything. And this is my top-up relay. So there's actually an interlock in here where the top-up, the freshwater top-up, cannot operate if the high-level switches are not satisfied. So if the pump is on, it hits a high level switch, it actually cuts off my top-up tank because I don't want to be pumping any more water if I have a high level. So if I get a high level, this solenoid valve closes, so I cannot purify any more water, and this pump shuts off and cannot turn back on. This one is, I haven't quite dialed it in yet, but this is to go to my apex so I can know if I get a high level. I haven't finished setting that up just yet. But yeah, so I designed this myself, trying to figure out what happens if any part of it fails. And I've almost forgot the best part. So this tank has a sump pump in it, comes up through this line, up through here, and up into my fish tank over there. This other line is a drain that goes right down into my washing machine drain behind it for my water changes. So it's actually hassle-free. Let's go talk about that. Okay, so I've got this little manifold header right here. It just hooks over the top of the tank. This portion is actually calibrated. I got about a 90-gallon system, so that's I drained it into water buckets until I got 10 gallons taken out that I measured. Then I cut this piece to length, so as soon as I drain 10 gallons, it loses its prime on the siphon, and the siphon stops. So I could start the draining and then walk away without any fears of it over draining. So up under here, I've got a couple of valves. This is my saltwater fill. So this comes from the saltwater tank downstairs. Over on this side, I've got a switch right here. I got to clean up this wiring still a little bit. So if I turn this switch on right here, it's just an extension cord right here that goes downstairs through the wall and turns on the saltwater pump. So what I do is open this valve, and this one is to the drain that goes into the washing machine drain right here. So I could prime the siphon. I got a little plug right here. So I could prime the siphon by pumping up from the basement and into the drain, and as soon as water starts going into the drain, shut it all down, hook up my siphon line, and then open up the valves to the drain, and it will keep draining right into the basement, lose suction when I've reached my desired water change, and then I could pump it right back up through the same piping, except the fill valve, of course, and fill my tank back up. The only thing I don't really have automated on that part is I have to watch how much I fill the tank up so I don't overfill it, but that's not that big a deal. Okay, so I have my manifold hooked up. Took the plug off and screwed it right in there to the union. I've got a valve here because if I don't, then I would be siphoning out of my tank when I undo the union. So I got this valve closed. I'm going to open this one. I'm going to open the drain. Saltwater fill and drain are open, so I'm just going to come up from the basement right down into the basement, hit my on switch, just pushed a bunch of water down there. I'm gonna shut the drain, shut the fill, turn off my pump, and then open this guy. And, oops, I shut the drain on. I shouldn't have done that one. There we go. And we are draining. I'm gonna come over here to my apex and shut off my return pump. Return pump is off. I just wanted to do that because when the pump is off, the water comes up pretty close to this high level switch, and I'm trying to keep salt water off the switch so that it doesn't gum up and fail. But here it is draining, and could walk away and do something else and come back when it's empty, or when it's missing the 10 gallons anyways. Just a few other key points I'd like to talk about. I know some people like to do fancy PVC work, but I actually went for utility rather than cosmetics. Like with this flexible hose that came with it, I could pull the pump right out to change it pretty easily. My little float switches, like I have things held in place with binder clips. This one down too is held in place with the binder clip so that I can pull it out and modify it or fix it if needed. You might be able to see right there, that was originally the location of my lower high level float. It was too low because by the time the off float raised up and then the pump wound down and stopped pumping, it was actually triggering the low level floats. So I have them offset so that hopefully if one of them gets used as just the lower one, which means hopefully the top one will never be used. That's like the redundant part of my fail-safe. We have another binder clip right here. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to, I got my plugs right here that I could quick disconnect and change things out if I need. So I was going for utility rather than cosmetics, and so far it seems to be working out pretty good for me because I've already had to modify this a few times. Like I said, I was looking for something that did this. There's some auto top-up systems available, but none of them quite did what I wanted because you have to keep filling up the top-up tank, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to carry buckets of water. I wanted it to be hassle-free, so this is what I ended up with. And for my tank, I just got 2 clownfish in there, a couple hermit crabs, an emerald crab, and a skunk cleaner shrimp right now. That's all I got. Still a new tank. Thanks for watching.